let's take a look at a clip from Echo. I think it's important to look at this clip. We looked at it before, but maybe if you haven't seen it, I think it's important that you see this clip. Notice something that we noticed, and it connects with another movie here. So check this out. Okay, now that clip, obviously the clip at the end is Eddie Murphy from Bowfinger, but the point being made is that when you see the fight scenes, you hardly see them connect, or when they do, it looks like a choreographed dance and less like an actual fight. Like, what is the purpose? What is the point? Are they trying to knock each other out? Why are they sparring? Alan will tell us actually, but that was concerning. Alan Ng had a Twitter meltdown over Echo. That's, I mean, look,
if you read it as a meltdown,
no,
like a meltdown. I was hardly melting down when I wrote it.
Alan, I'm gonna say, look, let's go with the narrative.
Play the damn video.
No, I'm gonna go with the narrative that Alan had a Twitter meltdown about
I had
Echo.
a meltdown. I saw Echo and I melted down.
You had a meltdown. I mean, you're no John Roca, but I say this is full meltdown mode for Alan Ng. Let's share screen right here, and we'll go through the tweets, starting with the first one. Wait, I want to make sure I see this okay. Can we read all that? Okay, good. We're going to start. And also, if you're not following Alan on Twitter, my pal Al is Alan's.
By the way, if you zoom in, if you enlarge, it'll just give you that center screen there. The side stuff. The right column will disappear.
How do I do that?
You just zoom in. No, zoom in.
Just keep zooming in?
In, not out. Zoom in.
Zoom in?
Yes.
Like that? Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Look at that.
Look at that. All right. Okay.
All right.
What are
the
all
internet
these
is great.
Retweeting people?
No, you're reading one tweet, and those are the comments behind it.
Okay, let's go to one.
Okay.
Would you like to read them?
Sure.
Okay, let's start with number one.
Number one. Okay, embargo has lifted. When you see how Echo loses her leg, your mind will be blown by how insanely stupid the writers are. You need to leave Hollywood. It's impossible, improbable. I think I meant to say implausible. Retake your high school physics class.
Tell us now. And okay, by the way, I want a warning here to everybody. You will be hearing spoilers in here.
Yeah,
you're going to hear spoilers.
Yeah, I mean this happens early on in the first episode. So
how does she lose her leg?
Okay,
why did you say this?
Okay, so we get a little flashback. Echo is a young girl. Her family has kind of gone awry with the kingpin, and as Echo and her mother are driving away, Echo's mother approaches a railroad stop, and her brakes don't work. And so she's slamming on the brakes. She tells Echo, Maya, to buckle in, and she crashes into a car that's waiting at the railroad tracks. And then another car approaches, and they get T-boned. Okay, so here's how Echo loses her leg. So, Chris, when a car gets smashed like that gets T-boned, how does the glass of the windows break?
It shatters into, first of all, it shatters almost like a web, like it just
like a web.
Shatters and then into little tiny pieces. Now that is a safety feature of automobile glass going back a decade.
The pieces are about centimeter.
They're very tiny pieces,
very small pieces,
and it's meant to do that as for people's safety in cars.
Because how does Echo lose her leg? Well, during the crash, a giant shard from one of the windows impales her leg. The shard of car glass, about 2 inches by 6 inches, is jammed into Echo's leg. And then we move to the present, and she has only one leg.
That's great. All right.
Okay.
So we're basically
the reason this is the first tweet is because this is indicative of the logic put behind this entire series. The fact that someone is so stupid and said, how, oh yeah, a car crash. She loses her leg. You know, the car could have crushed her leg. That
would have made more sense. That would have made more sense. But this clearly is someone who's never had a glass broken in their car. I mean, you can, and this is terrible that I'm going to give this piece of information. Have you, I own a lot of tools, would do work at on my house or do work on my car, motorcycle when I could do that. One of the really useful tools I have is a center punch. Do you know what a center punch is used for? So a center punch is used to create a little hole, like it's a little pinprick hole, and it's used to center the drill when you're drilling a hole. In the insurance business, they use a center punch to shatter windows.
Yeah.
So get a
center. That's used in San Francisco,
right,
especially around the tourist area.
Yes, that's how they break glass. You take the center punch, it's got this spring-loaded thing, you go and it goes ba-punk, and it will shatter glass. So but it's glass it's made to shatter in a way so as not to create further injury. So you've already got the people writing this. Look, I would believe that a kid would get hit by a car which has radioactive material in it. It would go in his eyes and he would get sonar powers before I would believe that someone lose their leg this way.
Yeah. In fact, okay, so people are asking, let's do the math here. Echo is probably about 25 years old.
Right.
In the accident, she was probably 5 years old. So 20 years ago from now. So we're talking the 2000s in which this accident would have occurred.
And they still had glass that did that. I mean, it's
we're not talking the 50s and 60s. We're talking the 2000s. Right.
Let's keep going to your next tweet. And this is in order. So this is number 2. Alan, if you could read it.
Yeah. So this is in response to the clip we just showed of the action. But to the creators of Echo, all you had to do was watch professional wrestling to stage your action. To quote Iron Claw, moves need to mean something. And this is the difference between choreography and actual fighting.
Right.
You know, when you see a wrestling match, you know, you just can't do moves. You know, this is my problem. I'm gonna spark controversy here. This is my problem with AEW versus WWE. AEW feels like it's just choreography. You know, people are moving around in position to do a move, while WWE at least uses camera angles and camera cuts to make it look a little bit more real. You know, it just seems like that they're trying to set her up as this great fighter, but they're really not doing anything. You know, they're not really telling a story with the fights other than the fact that they're fighting. And then when she gets into this battle with Daredevil, Daredevil barely it's kind of a stalemate, and then Maya turns around and Daredevil's missing, and then later Kingpin says, "You're the only person to have ever defeated him like that." You know, it's one of those where, you know, what did we watch? We didn't see anything special about this. We don't understand her skill set here. All we know is she won the battle. And so everything that happens to it doesn't mean anything. You know, I guess there's a part where, it's hard to explain without actually going through the actual footage.
Well, we'll do that. We'll talk more once we get to the actual review. Right now, I just want to go through your meltdown on Twitter.
Okay. All right. So, let's move on.
Okay, we'll go to the next one.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one here. If you would read this, Alan.
Okay. It's clear no one involved in the show was a comic book fan. Rule number 1 in comics: comic book readers wish they had the powers of their hero. Here's where you post videos of young fans using her powers, Echoes, to tell me I'm wrong. Look, as a comic reader, I wanted to fly. I wanted to scale a wall. You know, I wanted to smash through a building. You know, I wanted to throw my shield through, you know, and knock down 3 people with it.
I wanted to stretch my arms and other parts of my body like Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah. So this is, the way Echo is structured is it opens with the Choctaw lore. The first woman who saved her tribe from the cave. That a cave was collapsing, and the matriarch saved them all. And in this, when she was put in a perilous position, her hands lit up, and she was able to get out of that situation.
Wait! Pause for a second. her hands lit up.
Yeah, so like she'll hold her hands up like this, and then you'll see a light spiral come out, and like there's a point where there's a point in where she has to she has to steal a train car, and her prosthetic leg gets caught in that tie between the two cars, and she can't get it out. She can't get her leg out, and so she uses her powers. And we flash back to the past where her ancestral matriarch was in a similar situation, and when that situation resolved itself, boom, the car tie fixed, detached, and she was able to save herself. That's her power. And again, the point here is, why would you want that power?
It's a weird, like, I do remember, like, just as a young comic book fan, when I was a kid reading comics, we'd talk amongst ourselves, like, which powers you thought were the coolest powers, or who had the coolest costume. And I'll say, with regard to Echo, she has neither a cool costume, jeans and a jacket and a backpack, so she has no costume.
For example, you can't cosplay this. You can't.
Well, you could.
Yeah, but you wouldn't. No one would know you're Echo.
Well, it's called, there actually is a term for it. It's called everyday cosplay. It's when someone cosplays a character that could exist in the real world, so you actually don't notice it. So
So you like my Shang-Chi outfit?
As Robert De Niro said in Raging Bull, it defeats its own purpose. Talking about cooking a steak.
Yeah.
You bugging me about cooking a steak? People know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
All right, on to the next one.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about it. Like,
okay.
Okay.
Social reaction number 4, Alan.
Okay, from a cultural standpoint, at least Shang-Chi got it right. Captured Chinese culture in a rich and exciting way. We complain about the story, acting, blah, 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 but at least Destin Daniel Cretton got the Marvelized culture perfect. Yeah, look, you feel whatever you want to feel about Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. From a Chinese American perspective, it was spot on. It was like, that's everything that I've been taught as a child in terms of my culture is on display in this movie. And we can get through, but it was exciting. It was something to feel kind of proud about. I will still say that aside from the Spider-Man movies, I think Shang-Chi is the best of Phase 4 and 5. All right. Yeah, and debatable. I will admit, debatable. But compared to, if they had given the Echo treatment to Shang-Chi, we would be having a very different discussion at this point.
All right, let's continue.
Keep going, because I'll reinforce that later on.
All right, I'm gonna follow Project Egg Roll.
Okay. So this is Graham Greene.
Let me clear this up. Okay, yeah. Go ahead. Continue with your meltdown.
Okay, here we go. So Graham Greene is in the movie, is in the series. Graham Greene plays Scully, who is an elderly engineering genius who turns junkyard scraps into mechanical wonders to help Blue Beetle, Echo, defeat the baddies.
What are some of the gadgets?
Well, let's just say that there's no EMP pulse here. But there's a point where Echo's prosthetic foot is damaged, and she needs it, and it's a pretty sophisticated prosthetic, and she needs help fixing it. And so she goes to this is not her grandfather, but is a grandfather type who whips out everything in his Indian gift shop, a Native American gift shop, and is able to fix the prosthetic foot in a way that improves upon the original.
Well, if they don't turn the prosthetic leg into a machine gun like Rose McGowan in Grindhouse, I don't understand the point.
Yeah, but my overall point in this tweet is the fact that there's nothing original. Blue Beetle and Rudy Reyes has, George Lopez is that character.
Right.
This is a trope, and it's not even a cultural trope. It's a trope of superheroes. There's always that person, Q, the gadget guy, and that's this character here.
All right, let's move on to this one. Number 6 of your meltdown.
Okay, so this happens, I believe, in episode 2, but the field hockey sequence is shot with a maximum wide angle lens set to its maximum setting. Who is a cinematographer? Who thought this was cool? And who didn't stop you? bring the barf bags.
Why?
There's a scene where they go back into the past. Apparently, the Native American tribes, the way they fought over land was through sport. In this game, it was a ancient indigenous version of field hockey. And what they do is they take the camera, they center the camera on the player, and then they max out the wide angle so that you have the character in the center not moving, and then you have the background moving at a faster pace than you're used to seeing in real life, and you're following the sport through this lens, and it gets nauseous after a while. Someone must have thought to themselves that, hey, I got a great way to shoot this sports scene, and here it is, and it backfires, and no one stopped them, and clearly they didn't go and reshoot it, because this is it, and my whole point about this and the whole series is it's an embarrassment.
Okay,
keep going.
Okay, real quick, we'll get into the next tweet in your meltdown, but she's signing this, is that correct?
Yes.
So she's subtitled throughout the show.
Yes.
Okay.
There, with one exception, and that'll be the last tweet.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got number 7 here. Alan.
Okay. So this is, to me, 7 is one of the most important ones of the tweet, but I don't claim to know anything about Native American culture. And as someone who has seen Hollywood butcher my culture, any chance it gets, Echo is an embarrassment. Embarrassment to the indigenous audience. You deserve excellence. You deserve to feel pride. You deserve better. The reason I say this is, look, people hate it when I talk about being Asian American. I don't care. The Asian American experience in Hollywood, and let's make that distinction: Asian American versus Asian. Bringing over stuff from Hong Kong, and that was made in Hong Kong. I'm talking about Asian Americans, our experience here. It has been done poorly throughout the history of Hollywood. The earliest example I can come up with was when Pat Morita was on Happy Days. His Al character was so popular, they gave him a TV series.
Yeah,
and that TV series, they didn't know what to do with it, and they tried to make an Asian American television show, and it failed. And not only did it fail, it failed in a way that another Asian American television show would not come for a decade. And Pat Morita was never allowed to go back to Happy Days except for one reunion episode.
Right.
Then we moved to an All-American Girl with Margaret Cho. All Asian American cast. It was a horrible show, and it derailed Asian American stories on television for another 10 years. The earliest real successful Asian American movie was probably Joy Luck Club in terms of commercial success, and it wouldn't be until 25 years later when Crazy Rich Asians came out.
Interesting.
And the reason I bring up all that is because there's so few successes and so many bombs that it takes so long for Hollywood to reset and say, okay, let's give them another chance. And that's exactly what's happening to indigenous culture here. This is a horrible show. It's an embarrassment. And so why would Hollywood ever want to tell another Native American indigenous story, television show, movie ever again? All right. So hey, learn from the Chinese experience in Hollywood. And that's what you're set up for.
I just watch movies. I watch Japanese films, Chinese films, South Korean films, Taiwanese. There's a really good, I forget the name of that Taiwanese zombie movie I saw a while back.
The something.
Yeah. But like, I just watch that because I don't think this is the thing. And I made this point about Shang-Chi when it first came out, is that how would we as Americans feel if China made a movie about white people and released it in America, but it was produced by a Chinese company?
That was called Inferno with The Rock.
Right. I'm just saying that, like, I understand why China rejected Shang-Chi. They rejected the film. They didn't like the lead actor, Simu Liu. They thought he was an unattractive man. They thought he was ugly and that the Americans did that on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like through the American, I always think that something is more pure if it comes from the culture. For example, recent example, and I'll shut up after this.
Yeah.
Godzilla. There are two versions of Godzilla. There's the version made by Legendary, which is sort of the Americanized Godzilla, and it's fine. You know, the new Godzilla, Godzilla -1, coming from Japan, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The Japanese know how to do Godzilla, and I think a culture is better speaking for itself rather than some corporation saying, look at Native American culture. And I'd rather just see an indie movie made by a Native American without any filtering through a corporation looking for check boxes.
Right. But see, my point is very different from yours. To see Asians in cinema, we have to import it from China, from South Korea, from Japan.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of Asian American actors, filmmakers, directors that Hollywood would never hire. And if they did, they would give them some Americanized version of it that doesn't reflect how I grew up. This is the whole feeling scene, and why Shang-Chi was felt seen in the sense of it was a story from the Chinese American standpoint. That's why Everything Everywhere All at Once, why it resonated so well with me, my family, because it was a story of a Chinese American family. And the same thing with Crazy Rich Asians. There's a Chinese American family. And that's why it's like, that's why Jackie Chan is so popular in America, is because they'll hire him because he's proven himself over there and not giving any of us here who have grown up in the United States the chance.
I thought you were going to say Everything Everywhere All at Once. The butt plugs had something to do with.
Yes. Well, hey, we're kinky too. So.
Well, there you go. All right. This last tweet in your meltdown is kind of a two-parter here. So why don't you read it and then explain?
Yeah. Well, let me let's see.
No. We'll go to
let me start with the last one, then we can go to
sure.
Number 8. I'll go to number 8. Yeah. There's some amazing progressive moments in Echo. Kingpin has a full-time ASL translator with him at all times on the off chance he runs into Maya. By the way, doesn't American Sign Language have colonizer vibes to it? And my whole point of this tweet is that wokeness has so infected the brains of Hollywood that they don't even know what's proper and what's not. So when you say diversity, well, diversity means you bring in an underrepresented culture, but then you exclude all the other ones. And here it's but we're bringing in ASL, we're bringing in sign language, and not realizing that it means American Sign Language. A term I'm sure that if they really thought about it, they would have to take it down because it's got that colonizer vibe to it. And then this is my problem with wokeness altogether, is there's no values, there's no guiding principle behind it. It's just to be offended for the sake of being offended. And my whole solution to wokeness is just stop talking about it. Stop bringing it up.
Here's a little bit of sign language for you. Anyone that knows this one. You know this one?
Is that rubbing the balls? What?
If you know what that means,
okay.
People who know ASL in the chat, they're going to know. All right, read this last comment, and then we're going to go to the chat.
Okay, and then here's the capper in terms of what you think of my opinion. I'll admit my opinions about Echo are wrong when I see the Native/Indigenous community support Echo in the same way the Black community supported Black Panther in droves. Well, I mean, ultimately, that's it. If I'll be wrong if this becomes the Black Panther of the Indigenous community.
I think that everyone in the Indigenous community wants to give their money to a giant corporation that's exploiting they're a skinwalker version of themselves. You can critique that comment all you want.
Yeah.
But
let me build upon that by saying, why didn't the Black community support The Little Mermaid when Disney went through the effort and trouble of
pandering
Ariel Black?
Pandering, you mean?
Yeah.
I just think this is more pandering.
Exactly. Why did Lightyear failed? Why didn't the LGBT community come out in droves to support Lightyear? Because it represented them. Strange World, there's a gay love story. Why didn't the LGBT community come out and support that movie? And you're right, it is pandering. and this show panders as well, because this show, if look, I'll make the statement, you can criticize it all you want, but if I were in the Native American indigenous community and I saw Echo, I would feel embarrassed. I would absolutely feel embarrassed and frustrated. That's what Hollywood is giving our community, because as a Chinese American, that's what Hollywood gave my community for decades.
Pat Morita.
Pat Morita. Pat Morita should have a bigger career.
Okay, before we go, first of all, that's a great dissection of your meltdown, Alan. Yep. It's too bad we don't have any video of the actual meltdown happening. But
or do we?
Or maybe I have a video here I can play. But like, can you what was the general reaction? I don't want to feature anyone's, reaction. We're going to go to your comments and chat comments.
The general reaction is Echo was made by hacks, by people who don't know how to write stories, who don't know how to write television, who've never taken a physics class. It's not a superhero show because the powers are barely there. And it's no one. I don't see anyone of veteran status or experienced status who is associated with this show, from the writing, from the cinematography, from the storytelling standpoint, from the direction, and I hate to say it, from the acting standpoint too. It's a series made by hacks, and Hollywood can and has done better.
All right,
Disney has done better, for that matter.
Okay, let's go to your super chats, comments, and questions. We're going to go right.
There's that one Daredevil move that just cringe. It makes me cringe every time I see it.